Hello and welcome aboard the Knitty Stew podcast. My name is Leanne. I am the Knitty Stew. Stew is short for stewardess. I am a Canadian flight attendant and a yarn enthusiast. I discuss on this channel all things knitting, and I also bring you on the road with me to some of my overnight cities and show you around the areas and give you a little bit of a history and background of where I get to overnight as part of my job. So thank you for being here. For any new people checking out the channel, thank you for giving me your time, and also for possibly subscribing or hitting the notification bell, and it really helps my channel, and I sure appreciate the community that has grown here. This is episode 14 of the Knitty Stew podcast. I can't even believe that. That's amazing. Before I go any further, I would like to first acknowledge that I am recording today on the traditional land of the Syilx Okanagan people, and I recognize, honor, and totally respect the presence of Indigenous people here in Canada and the past, present, and future caretakers of our land. I'm really grateful to be filming here in the beautiful city of Kelowna. I had planned to come out here last year, early in spring, and I didn't make it. That flight ended up leaving without me, and I never got to come back for a long enough period of time to actually film an episode. So I had that chance today. I'm so excited. Please forgive if you hear a lot of ambient noise in the background. It's quite loud, it seems. The windows are right facing the road, and it might be a little echoey. Let's just get to it though, right? Like, let's not talk about the things that aren't perfect. I just can't wait to catch up. It's been so long. Yeah, welcome to 2023. Happy New Year. New Year, same me. I feel like my intentions this year are to continue to do what I was doing in 2022, and that is to do what brings me joy, knitting and in life, because I think that is where we really get to shine, and I think that's what life is about. And it brings me great joy to create these videos and of course to knit. And also my second intention would be to just keep becoming more authentically me, embracing all that I am, and no apologies about it, just to do me. And I like that. It seems to have attracted a great circle of people around me, and I really like that. And the third intention of this year is to work from my stash. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but oh my goodness, I've got a lot to say, and I'm a bit overwhelmed because it has been so long that I have 6 finished objects to discuss. I do have also 1 work in progress and a couple of new to me things to show you. And of course, footage of Kelowna, which has been such a gift to come here today. So I think in the middle of my finished objects, I will stop and show you what I got up to today. Thanks to my cousin Sherry, who lives here. She was my tour guide today, and it was really great to catch up with her and spend time with her. And we went on a quick excursion around town. So yeah, so without further ado, let me just get started on some of the things I wanted to talk about. Okay. This is my Zweig first finished object. This came off the needles on December 25th. It was my Christmas cast off. So the Zweig, okay, by Caitlin Hunter, probably needs no introduction. Boyland Knitworks. I began this back in November, and you've seen this part. And I've knit it out of Amelia and Philomene, the Adeline base for the body, main color. This is called Mayflower, and it is a deep dark gray blue. And the lace portion and the contrast color is Blazing Birch, which was gifted to me by Tyler of Arcane Fiberworks. What a rewarding knit this whole thing was, like from start to finish. It's just, you know, those projects where you cast on and like you're at the collar and you're just happy already. That's what this did. I knit through this lace portion in like epic time. I separated each lace section from the chart with 17 contrasting stitch markers and then 1 beginning of the round marker. And the only thing that actually tripped me up on this was working through the simple knit two of the contrasting and knit two of the main color, because the Amelian Philomene is a bit less poofy than the Arcane Fiberworks, and I had to watch my tension. The Amelian Philomene Adeline base is 70% merino, 20% yak, and 10% nylon. 100% awesome. I love it. I love how it shows the texture of the stitch pattern, which I wasn't going to do until I saw someone sitting next to me at the Edmonton Fiber Frolic, and it looked so epic. And then I found the video on Andrea Mowry's channel, her tutorial on cabling without a cable needle. So it was simple enough to figure out, and there's a lot of rest rows between having to do the texture, so it was just a glorious knit. And also the color work here, I wanted to tell you the Blazing Birch is 80-20, so it's 80% merino nylon, and it just pops. I think it's definitely, this is flicked a switch. Something has been unlocked within me, and I will be, yeah, I would make another one of these in a heartbeat. When I blocked it, everything about it was just, you know, when you're trying something on and you have your doubts, I never had that with this sweater. The cuffs are the right length. There was just, I just love everything about it. So 10 out of 10. I know I might be late to the party. A lot of people have made this Zweig, but it was a very enjoyable knit, and what a great way to end 2022. And yeah, there will be more. Sweaters, pullovers, yoked, all the things, because this was so fun. My cousin Sherry and I stopped at Starbucks and we grabbed ourselves grande lattes. This is the brown sugar oat Americano. It's getting to be late in the afternoon, but I do have another flight today, so I have to drink this and then cut myself off the caffeine. So I also brought something else with me. It's a Focus essential oil, because sometimes when you get in front of this camera, you just forget everything you want to say. So maybe this will help. We'll see. Finished object number 2 is this chunky cabled headband. Just wanted to mention, if you want any information on all the things I'm talking about, I will put links in the description notes below. I usually put in timestamps as well so that you can skip chapters or whatever you wanted to do. So I try to do that. And this was on my Instagram. I made this chunky cabled headband, which is a free pattern by Michelle Greenberg. This is from my Breed of the Month. I subscribe to Long Way Homestead, and it's breed specific skeins of yarn that come once a month. This was the Rambouillet, which is, I think, maybe my favorite fiber. It was a single ply chunky, milled in Manitoba, Canada. And I had a couple of false starts. I knew I wanted to work with the yarn right away, so I cast on for a hat to begin with, but the nature of how it's spun, it's thin and thick. So the hat was not ringing my bell. So I thought, there's only 70 meters. So I was like, maybe I'll cast on for a cowl. And that also, it just wasn't singing. And then it hit me. It's like, cables. A single ply of squish totally needs to be cables. So yeah, this flew off my needles in one afternoon while we were running some errands. I always bring my knitting with me in the truck, and when we stop and do things, my husband will often be like, okay, I'll be right back, and I just keep the vehicle warm and knit. I finished it off with a 3-needle bind off, and my friend Rob, who you guys might have seen in my Okotoks episode, my sister taught him to knit, and he's made like, I think 7 or 8 of these, if not more. He has taken to it like a duck to water. That's what it looks like inside out. I was going to show you the bind off, the 3-needle. Yeah, he's learned how to do a provisional cast on, which is something that I haven't even quite figured out how to do properly. I will avoid those. Anyways, yeah, really proud of my buddy Rob. So apparently when my sister Wendy teaches anyone to knit, they become savant. So stay tuned for Rob's YouTube channel. Right, buddy? Maybe you're gonna start one of those? I don't know. Third finished object is, it's another Dickey. If you recall, I made the Pure Joy shawl for my sister June, for my eldest sister June's 65th birthday. Turns out she is very sensitive to wool. So some of the content that I used in the Pure Joy shawl was actually scratching on her neck. And she saw my Regina episode where I was showing off the golden Dickey, and she said, make me one of those. And I showed her I was like, of course, I'd be pleased to do so. So I showed her my Malabrigo stash, and she chose Azul Profundo, which I think is a gorgeous color. This yarn could not scratch anyone, ever, ever, ever. I don't think you could even become the least bit agitated by beautiful Malabrigo. Notes on this, I wanted to mention there were some people who actually made the golden Dickey, or were trying to, based on my Ravelry notes. They were rough. So this one, I'm calling it June's Dickey. It's based off a free pattern from Drops, 214-49B, Winter Wisps Neck Warmer. So it's very quick. It's knit in US 8, 5mm, US 9s for the main front portion, 5.5mm. And I think I got the numbers correct now, and I put in, I double checked it. So if you wanted to make a Dickey, I won't put this one on, but maybe I'll pop in a little photo, because I did try it on, and I'm going to be delivering this to my sister up in Edmonton very soon. There's 3 more finished objects to go, but at this point I think I'm going to stop, and I'll insert some footage from the excursion here today in Kelowna, and I hope you enjoy it. My cousin Sherry showed up and picked me up curbside around 10:30, and we headed out on the town. First things first, we headed out to Art of Yarn, which is a yarn shop that I have purchased things online from when I'm looking at patterns and I can't find the yarn in my city. Often it'll say where to find, and it'll have locations within Canada, and 9 times out of 10 I find it. It's like Art of Yarn. And wow, what a beautiful shop. It's got it all. Yeah, La Bien-Aimée, if you're looking for Brooklyn tweed, you know, knitting for Olive, spin cycle. Oh my goodness, I don't know what you actually couldn't find in this store. My cousin actually picked up stuff to make herself a shift cowl, and yeah, it was really great. The owner, Natasha, helped her pick out her colors. I've actually been talking to Natasha a little bit, because we had this thing this year where my son and my daughter and my husband and we just picked each other's names for Christmas rather than just buying for everyone. My son got my name, and I said, I need the knitted Kalevala, and they have it at Art of Yarn, but you're gonna have to order it online. So my son did go online to Art of Yarn. I gave him the link, and he let the address auto-populate, and it was shipped to the wrong address, and it shows delivered. We're really hoping that whoever got it will say this isn't mine, and hopefully it'll end up back at Art of Yarn. So Natasha's gonna watch for it. If it shows up there, she said she'll hold on to it for me, and maybe I can come back here and pick it up in person. Kelowna is located in the southern region of British Columbia. It is nestled in the Okanagan Valley. Wine is the top industry in the area. There are 40 plus wineries and vineyards all across the community. And there's even a BC wine museum and many winery tours for tastings, etc. The population of Kelowna as of 2020 is approximately 142,000 people. The climate here is relatively dry, although it was misty and a little bit rainy today. But annually, this city is blessed with over 2,000 hours of sunshine. Kelowna was incorporated as a city in 1905 with a population of 600. In 1958, construction of a floating bridge across Lake Okanagan was complete, linking the communities of Westbank, Peachland, and Summerland. Of course, it is known for the Okanagan Lake. There's 135 kilometers from end to end, and there's over 30 beaches. Okanagan Lake is said to be home to the Ogopogo, which is a legendary creature, snake-like dinosaur, and sightings still periodically occur. There's beautiful Japanese gardens. We did pop over there, and sadly, they're closed for the season. One other fun fact is Kelowna was once known for tobacco as a staple before wineries took over. There's very rich soil here, and it was very suitable for growing tobacco seeds and leaves and cigars, I believe. Kelowna derives its name from the Okanagan term meaning grizzly bear. So that was my Kelowna excursion today. It was so nice. I really enjoyed it. Even with it being a overcast day, it was still really great to get out and about. Okay, back to some quick finished objects. This shouldn't take too long. My fourth finished object, the Cambridge Watchcap. It is a black rib toque that I made for my husband. It is a carbon copy of the Cambridge Watchcap that I made for my son Derek. And his was in dark green, and Dave asked for the exact same hat, and only he wanted his in black. So I used the Malabrigo. I found some Malabrigo black worsted from the lovecrafts.com. It's a free pattern by Hanna Breetz. You knit it for 10 inches, and then that allows for folding up of the brim. And you can do it in a stitch pattern that the pattern calls for, which calls for twisted rib. I just did regular knits and purls, and Dave actually, he's just like Derek. He's like, no, I'll just wear it on the more plain side. But the texture on the inside, when you flip it, totally reversible. Yeah, great. And from making it the second time, I can definitely confirm that there were no errors in the decreases. On the other one, I thought it was like either my stitch numbers or the pattern itself, but if there were errors in the decreasing at the top, that was all me, because it decreased perfectly. And the one thing I have to say, it's been quite a challenge to create a black toque for my husband. This black really started to bleed out. I definitely needed to soak it and block it. I threw a little bit of vinegar in the water to hopefully take some of the black dye out, and I even used a little bit of Synthropol, and hopefully it doesn't like leave a big black line across my husband's forehead. I will get feedback on that when I return the hat. I said I just have to show it on the podcast, and then you can have your toque, okay? Because yeah, it is winter here, so he could probably really use that. So that was a simple little finished object. I definitely like this rib toque, and it's a little snug, which is both apparently Derek and my husband Dave really like that. So my next finished object is a basket. It is felted, and I made it for my sister Wendy. This, I'm going to call it a bougie basket because it's fairly fancy. So my sister Wendy is the best chicken mom ever. My Okotoks episode, I showed footage of her chicken coop, which is so bougie. Like, it's got wallpaper, curtains, plank flooring, you name it, her birds are living their best chicken lives. And I ordered, believe it or not, Nutiden yarn with other Nutiden yarn I had purchased in an update from Hrachovec with the purpose of making an egg collecting basket for my sister's chickens. They lay the most beautiful colored eggs, and they have grown accustomed to beautiful things, right? So of course they needed a luxury egg collecting basket. I had initially planned on making the bindle bag by Ozetta, Haley Smedley, and then I was thinking, well, maybe handles are more in order. So I was looking at the Bokhara basket by Vanessa Palisa. And then I was like, you know what, neither one of those were quite what I was looking for. So I went after a free pattern called Easter Basket by Kelly Fraker. And I knit from the bottom with DPNs. I cast on a very few amount of stitches, I think 8, and then increased out from there. I increased to 88 stitches, and then I decreased to 84 stitches. And the reason was I was kind of obsessed with my Zweig, so I wanted to do the stitch pattern that is in the Zweig pattern. Obviously I felted it, so that became a non-thing to do at all, but still fun to do. And then I continued to decrease for the top. I decreased down to something that was divisible by 12 so that I could cast off 12, 24, cast off 12 and another 24. And then I decided it was felting time to give it some structure. And Brittany of Crux Fibers gave me some great tips. She said, super hot water, do it by hand for a small object like this and rub it in onto itself with lots of soap. And then I dried it over my son's protein container, and I think it's gonna cut it. I think the birds will like it. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. So, egg collecting basket for my sister Wendy and her chicks. And last but not least, sorry for the crinkling. I had so much to discuss today. I was like, how am I gonna get all this out? This might be a slightly longer video than usual. I hope you'll bear with me. All right, more focus, Leanne. All right, okay. Okay, final finished object. This little nugget. This is the tiny reindeer. Oh dear, how can I show this properly? All right, this is tiny reindeer. Definitely looks like Rudolph. And I made it for my friend Erin. This is a pattern by Hrachovec, who is Mochi Mochi. And I have her book, but I've made quite a few of her patterns. These teeny tiny little, like, what is that? 1.5 inches? This little reindeer? They're super duper cute. I've made a few things. I've made a pumpkin. I've made a bat. I've made a gnome, Santa, angel. I don't know, the fiddlier the better. Like, these are knit with US 1, so 2.25 millimeter needles. And I just had some Rowan Kid Classic scrap for the light brown. And then the dark brown is Ramafino. And it's very clever. She has clever little tiny patterns, barely any stuffing required. Easy little eyes there. And what this is for is that Erin and I, she's one of my longest time friends for sure. We went to high school together, you know, rocked the 90s, all that jazz. And now we are like crafty women who are nearing 50. And we make things for each other. So Erin is good at needlepoint and she's good at crafting other types of things where I'm the knitter and she is very knitworthy. So each Christmas and sometimes around her birthday, which is November, I'll make her something. She likes something cute. And I said, what can I make you this year for your Christmas ornament? And she sent me a picture of this, I don't know where it was from, probably Pinterest, a little mouse. So I thought, oh, okay, cool, I'll figure that out. So I found the mouse in a sweater pattern by Dot Pebbles. And I've made the frog by Dot Pebbles. I've made 2 of those. I've actually made a doll by Dot Pebbles, and this pattern took me down. I thought I was doing it right, and it was a less than desirable outcome. Let's just put it that way. I had all the right colors, and I thought I was increasing in the right places. This poor thing is what's left of Mouse. Mouse never even got a sweater, okay? Mouse didn't even get seamed. I tried. I really feel like maybe I was super distracted. I don't know. But I think I put Mousie's feet on backwards. All this fingering weight that I had in my stash. And then I started to seam it together and it just, we're just gonna let that one go. And Erin, I hope you like Tiny Reindeer because that was where it was at. Because all the things that I was making, the Dickey for my sister and the toque for my husband and the basket for my sister, all those things are wonderful, but I was like, man, after making this bag, I'm like, I need to get down with some serious selfish knitting, and I could not wait to cast on for my work in progress, which I will share with you next. Okay, so many of you probably know of, and if you don't, oh my gosh, go get into that. Casey of Young Folk Knits podcast is hosting a Bougie sweatshirt knit along, and I'm all about it. I couldn't think of anything bougier than The Weekender by Andrea Mowry. And I am on the front portion, which I was going to sit here and knit, but I didn't get it joined. I've made the back already. This is the front hem, and I'm using US 8 needles for the hem, and I'm going to use US 9 for the body. And the yarn I'm using is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the Soot colorway. It is so light and airy. I have made a weekender before, but I made the weekender as a vest. I didn't put the sleeves on. I just made it as a vest, and I used Briggs & Little Heritage. So it turned out great. It's a little heavy. Had not left enough space for the armholes. So this time, older, wiser, hopefully, that I will make this one just right. And this colorway will go with everything, all the things. So I'd say that really qualifies for some Bougie. And the other thing is the gauge for the pattern was 18 stitches on US 9s using the shelter. And I don't know, maybe the nature of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter has changed slightly, because like my gauge, and I consider myself a semi-tight knitter as an English thrower, not a continental picker, to be fairly tight most of the times. And I was getting like 16 stitches over 4 inches. So what I decided to do is knit with the US 9 because I like the fabric that it's making, and then I'm just going to knit the small size, so size 1, and we'll see how that turns out. Either way, I think it's going to be cozy, and the first of many pullovers that is going to be in my near future for 2023. So 2023 is going to be about me, and it's also going to be about knitting from my stash. Now, I was given a lot of lip service to this, and my good friend Tracy of Oliver Rain Knits podcast, her and I were accountability partners and basically enablers. Like, I would co-sign anything for her. Is like, oh well, this fell into my basket. And no, this is like something that we really want to be intentional about, her and I. So my sister Wendy came up with a clever name for our challenge. So 2023 is going to be Busting My Balls 2023. And so I definitely invite you to come along on the ride if you are interested in working on your stash, working from your stash. So what we've decided to do, loosely rules, is that quarterly we're going to check in with one another and see how much in grams that we have knit from our stash. So for whatever reason, I'm extremely OCD about how I keep my stash. Like, up to the most recent acquisition, everything is photographed, weighed, and cataloged. So I know how many grams I have in my stash. I need to add them up. Tracy already added up hers. So the plan is that we will quarterly, so in March 1st will be our first weigh-in. We will see how much we have knit in grams. And for example, if I knit something and take away 500 grams from my stash, that in a percentage would be, we're going to take 10% of that. So 500 grams would be 50. 50, that translates into cold hard cash towards a kit, or perhaps anything knit, in the knit area. So like a book that I want, or some implements, or I can save it up quarterly and maybe buy, say, an advent calendar at the end of the year. And it's just a fun challenge. We're not giving away prizes because, you can treat yourself if you challenge yourself and maybe get yourself a ball-bustin buddy, or that doesn't sound very good. Maybe just get yourself an accountability partner. And if that's something that you're interested in, you could use the hashtag, keep us posted, or just challenge yourself. But I thought that was a real fun way to work on the whole philosophy around less is more. If I knew then what I know now about knitting, but I think that's part of the journey. I used to just buy single skeins all day long, not having a clue what I was going to make with it, and that can be okay. But when you get into the product knitting of your life, where I think I am, I want to work on my wardrobe, and I'm like, why do I have all these single skeins? What the heck am I going to do with these? And now I do have some sweater quantities of things, so I'm going to knit from there and just do the best I can. the last section I wanted to talk about, I just talked about working from my stash. It's new to me. Before Tracy and I started this challenge for one another, I had signed up for a test knit from a lovely maker named Jo. So Jo Knit, she has a podcast and she makes beautiful patterns and dyes beautiful yarns. She put out a call through some of our group chat that we have and asked if anyone would be interested in knitting a hat pattern. And also she was just like, I'll just send you some of my yarn to make it with. Yes, please. So I'm going to be test knitting this lovely melancholy hat. She has such clever names for her yarn and her patterns. And the yarn arrived yesterday. Brace yourself. Look at this. Can you see the sparkle in that? And this mohair. Stop. The colorway I chose, this is called Tennessee Warbler. It is a single and it's got glitter. It's 95% superwash merino and 3% silver stellina sparkle. I mean, I can't even. How gorgeous is that? And the pattern itself is 2 strands of fingering with 1 strand of mohair. I couldn't pick the mohair, and so I said, please, can you please do that? And she chose her hand-dyed Tennessee Warbler silk mohair. It's 72% fine kid mohair and 25% silk. Okay, I'm so glad I got in on this before my yarn fast. Like, yes. So that's the one thing. Then I saved something very special for last, which I had no idea I would be showing you on the podcast today. My sister, I keep saying my sister, well, kind of, right? Like my cousin Sherry, she is like a sister. She is on my dad's side. She's a cousin through my uncle. And she said last night, like she knew she was coming to pick me up to do our little outing today, but she woke up in the night with, I need to give this to Leanne. She went to her closet and pulled out a bag which contains a very precious item. It is a crocheted masterpiece. It's the Lord's Prayer, crocheted by my grandma, Erna, who did not read or write English. Spoke German, could speak some English, of course, but did not read or write. And yet, she made this. And my sister Sherry had it. I think her mom had given it to her, or her, she just had it, and she felt called to give it to me today. There were some tears. How gorgeous is this? She said, well, I feel like you would really, really appreciate that. And yes, I was gobsmacked. I didn't know what to say. And this will get a very, very treasured spot in my home. I feel like it will be something I need to frame. I might have to do a little bit of brainstorming on how to best display this, but what a beautiful gift. What a treasure. And there's a lot of meaning behind this because Sherry is a very gifted knitter and crocheter, and we feel like her and I feel like this is part of our heritage, that this is something that we got from maybe our grandma Erna, and the Polish and German background is just, it's something so powerful. Then when I think about where did this knitting obsession come from, this passion or this thing that I cannot get enough of. And so thank you so much, Sherry. One last look at this. It's just a masterpiece. Amen. So that is everything I have to show you today. I hope this video found you well, and that my footage was cohesive and it made sense, because it was quite a break between podcasts, and flying over the winter season was busy and challenging. If you're watching the news, you know that was lots going on. My knitting obviously came with me and kept me company, and I did have some beautiful moments over the winter season. I loved spending those downtime watching some of the Vlogmases. A couple of highlights from the season. I tried making some German Stollen from a recipe that I got from Wool and Twine Fiber. She put out a recipe on her mini Stollen recipe in her newsletter, and I gave that a try. I made 2 batches because they were amazing. They turned out so good. Another highlight from Christmas was Malene from a Playful Knitter podcast. She had reached out and asked if she can feature me as her podcaster of the day on her Vlogmas on December 20th, and she had asked what my favorite Christmas carol was. And my favorite Christmas carol, hands down, is Silent Night. And she played that on her podcast, and I watched it, and yeah, just like the global connection hit me as I watched that, and I thought, I cannot believe how we are all brought together through our common love of knitting and all the things fiber. It's yeah, it's amazing. I'm very grateful for how the turning of the year went, and I do look forward to all that 2023 holds for us and for you. I hope you're well and staying safe and healthy, and whatever you're knitting on, please comment. I read and like and try and respond to every single comment, and I hope that yeah, I hope to see you here again on the next episode of the Knitty Stew. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.